have nature and art and poetry. And if that is not enough, what is enough? Artist Vincent van Gogh. This is The Artful Painter, art lessons for artists, collectors, and people who love art. Priya Gore's extraordinary paintings of birds and wildlife are breathtaking. Her paintings are full of color, vibrancy, and energy. She says painting large allows her whole body to become fully engaged in the flow and gesture of painting. The process of painting is like a joyous dance to her. Each lyrical movement breathes life into the birds that are often the subject of her art. It was against improbable odds that Priya would become the artist she is today. She came from a large family in a small village in India. In India, she says, much of your future is already decided before you are conceived. Either you must become a doctor or an engineer. Though as a young child she had a deep love for art, she became an engineer. Despite the challenges of having a highly technical career, she sought out time to sketch wherever her work took her. She eventually settled in Australia, where she currently resides today. The Australian wilderness and its unimaginable landscapes, tropical rainforest, and diversified wildlife inspired her to paint. Now, as a new mother, she has finally left her engineering career to pursue, as she calls it, a new, bold, and beautiful phase of her life as a full-time fine art painter. When you see Priya Gore's beautiful animated paintings, you easily sense her exuberance. In your mind's eye, you can see her before the canvas with her brushes applying each dab of paint with a graceful flowing gesture, imbuing her painting with a dash of wilderness. My name is Carl Olson, and this is The Artful Painter. Priya, thank you for joining me here on The Artful Painter. I am so happy that we've connected and I get to talk to you. I know you got up very early this morning to appear because you're halfway around the world. Where are you?
I'm in Brisbane, Australia. It's in the state of Queensland state. Yeah.
Beautiful country, I hear. I've never been.
Yeah.
I'd like to go.
Yeah. We are lucky here, actually. As soon as I step out, I see these rainbow lorikeets, playing around the palm trees. And it's just beautiful, like the kind of birds and the colors. And, it's very, very different to any other place, I think.
When you see those things, do you find yourself thinking, oh, I want to paint that. I've got to paint that.
Absolutely. And I'm a really bad photographer. So, and you can't paint, like you can't sit there and paint birds because they keep moving. So I try to capture as much as I can, and do a lot of sketches and studies. It's all about, I think, doing a lot of studies, on my sketchbook. So when I sketch a bird like almost 100 times, I get very familiar with everything, the whole anatomy, the movements and the gestures, and then I'm comfortable to put it on the canvas.
100 times. That's a lot of practice. And I assume you're talking about different, because they're always moving, you're trying to capture them in their different positions.
Different positions. And because I tend to paint big and tend to, have a lot of birds in one painting to show that movement and to show the whole drama around it. Just painting, like sometimes I do bird portraits, but I love putting a lot of birds in my composition and things like that. So I play with my sketchbook and pencil. Yeah.
That's one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you today, because when I first saw your artwork, I was absolutely blown away by these extraordinary paintings of birds. They were not just renderings, but they were full of life and color, and they really are gorgeous. And of course, we're going to provide a link to your website. Pause the podcast and go look at Priya's work, okay? It is amazing. And
that's so sweet of you. Thank you. That's kind of you.
Were you always painting birds, or was that an interest that evolved over time?
Actually, it was more of anything when I was growing up. I used to just sketch anything. I started painting very recently, so I have very strong connection with my sketchbook and pencil. I have always had it in my backpack, whether I'm going for my classes during my whole engineering, education phase, like school phase, always a sketchbook and a pencil person. And, taking it everywhere, sketching, drawing, mostly, pets, cats and dogs and birds and trees. Anything I see, like it was even some architecture buildings, my school building, my parents' hospital, like things, everything. I never thought of it as I'm sketching a particular thing. It's just whatever is in front of me. But I enjoyed actually the circle and the curves around birds. When you draw birds, there is the first thing is you draw a circle to lock the head, and then you draw like a line and a curve and the wing. So I don't know. I just like that motion a lot more. Maybe in recent times, I came to realize that that's what I enjoy the most. Yeah, but I have been sketching anything and everything, even some human portraits and things like that.
Yeah. I got tickled when I saw how you referred to your pencil and paper. You called them your best buddies, best buds.
Yes. Yeah.
Close attachment there.
Extremely close attachment, and not an eraser or sharpener that much, because I never found that is very necessary. It's it was just the paper and the pencil, actually. Yeah, the best buddies.
So you mentioned you like the curves of the birds. So to me, that implies there's a gestural stroke to it.
Yeah.
And I imagine if I were to look at your sketchbooks, there's probably am I guessing right? I don't know. I may be totally wrong. I don't picture you as you're not doing engineering drawings of birds. You're doing a gestural approach. Is that true?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I remember your interview with Paul. His last name is very complicated.
Foropoulos.
Yeah, sorry.
My Greek friend from Samos, Greece.
Island. Yeah, yes. So I that's what I relate to. What he said is, it's all about drawing a circle and a line. And it's the gestures, it doesn't have to be, because you have to see, the whole point of it is communicating your feelings, right? What you're feeling inside. And it's, whatever way best suits you to communicate it. You don't have to do rendering. And, I used to do it. Like I used to do all those grids and hatches and all of those things. But yeah, eventually I stopped doing it. And it was like rough sketches and gestures, as you said, like very rough stuff.
Well, how do you decide what you're going to paint next?
I have like the whole year ready already.
That far out. Wow.
Yeah. So it's I think it's a result of those studies again, a lot of composition sketches and things going on in your sketchbooks. I think as many sketchbooks you fill, you have as many ideas, and it just, because you're constantly thinking at the back of your mind about, what you did today, what you sketched today. And see, like we go for walks and hikes, and even a walk around our house, around our area, like you see so many different plants and flowers. You want to put everything in your painting, but you have to hold back and then plan it, right? So what looks good with what, and what color will go with what color, and which flower you should use with what bird, and like the whole thing, the background. And so now I'm getting a bit more bold, I think, with the whole composition, and trying to put landscape in there, like, water in there, everything, trees. Yeah, that's the whole, this year's whole plan.
You've decided on a subject. What's your process to plan your painting and to execute your painting?
So like what happens is it depends very heavily on what I have painted earlier. So the last painting I did very much associated with that. So for example, if I have done a very detailed painting of macaws, right? Scarlet macaws or green winged macaws, something like that. And it has been bit of a challenge for me. Like, I had to do a lot of prep work. And then when I go on canvas, usually I paint fast. But sometimes even after all that prep work, when you paint, because painting is different than sketching, right? So when you paint, you still face challenges. And a lot of times I end up changing my painting completely, or 70% of it I repaint. And so if I go through all of that, and if it takes 3 weeks to a month for my previous painting, then the next painting, the background will be done with like a knife, big thick knife, like splashing everything over like the canvas for the background blocking in, completely different style. And even the foreground, the subject, or all the birds will be just done really, really fast, without any prep work, without any studies, nothing, right? So the next painting finishes in 2 days, and it looks so much better than the previous painting. So it's I think it's about the state of mind more than the plan. So you can plan as much as you can, but sometimes, when you are like done with a lot of meticulous work or a lot of rendering, or I've stopped doing it, but still sometimes you end up doing it too. You want to achieve that perfection, and after that you want this relief of splashing paint around. And
think of it like I'm driving down the interstate and I want to get off the interstate and take the country roads. And then after a while, I'm tired of the country roads and I want back on the interstate.
Bang on. Yeah.
Really bad analogy, but we do like change.
That's what it is. Yeah. It's about changing it up all the time. Yeah.
What are you working on right now?
I'm working on this. I think it's one of the biggest ones. So it's like 155 centimeters by. I talk in centimeters. Sorry.
That's okay. That's
so it's 155 by 155. A big one. I think it's 6 by 6 or something like that. Yeah. So, or sorry, 5 by 5. Maybe it's 5 by 5.
So it's a square format.
Square, most of my paintings are square format. I just love them. Yeah, I don't know. I find the movement, the motion is very circular. I like the whole symmetry of it. Yeah.
The square format is a challenge. I talked about it with Mitchell Abala when he talks about picture formats, and a square can be a challenge, but it also can be very satisfying. Because of those challenges. I like the square format.
Absolutely.
But I also like the cinematic format too. So I don't know. I like it all.
I
like it all.
Again, it depends on your mood. But most of the times I prefer painting on a square canvas. And I paint like 1x2s as well, that format. That aspect ratio. So it depends on your mood, basically. And with the latest one, I have just put a lot of things in it. It's actually a landscape with a waterfall and a big, eucalyptus tree, and lots of bird partying on top of it, like sitting there.
Oh wow! Young ones, I can't wait to see that.
Yeah. So it's the landscape in the background, and it's a very familiar place. So we have been to that place. It's in one of the national parks here, Lamington National Park. It's called Moran Falls.
Do you ever find yourself wanting to know about the birds that you paint?
Yeah, absolutely. You have to know, a lot about them. It's not just the anatomy, but the way they behave, the way they are like, so some of them are paired for life. which sound, because they live for really long, like they have a long life, and still they have these kind of things, and I find them really, really intelligent. So, and the best part is, like, they have this magical power of flying. You always,
Yeah.
like, you envy that. It's so beautiful, the kind of perspective they have is, I don't know. Yeah, there are so many things about birds which are fascinating, I think, for a lot of people. I think is like, bird watching is the the best, relaxing, and yeah.
It's better than television. Shirley's my wife. We go sit out on the patio, sometimes have our dinner with us, and we'll just sit out on the patio. We've got to know the birds. I mean, we give them names sometimes.
Yeah.
And they all have such unique personalities, even within the same species. The different birds will have different personalities, and it's just so much fun. We have a hawk pair in our yard now. We were kind of nervous about that because we thought, well, they would eat all our songbirds. But we had a problem. We had all these ground squirrels, chipmunks.
Oh.
And I know everybody says they're cute and all that, but they fuss. That's why they're called a chipmunk, because of that chip sound. Chip, 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 chip. And they'll drive you insane. And we've had an infestation of them in our area. But the other day we noticed all the chipmunks are gone. So our hawks, who we thought was going to be a problem, became our friends.
Oh.
And they're raising some little ones, and it's such a fascinating thing to see them do their thing. They're magnificent.
Tell me about it. The chipmunks, right? We have resident possums.
Mm-hmm.
And they make, like, they party all night on the roof, and it's like, all the other houses, they have put different traps and different things to scare them away. So if, for example, if you put an animal, statue or something on top of your roof, it because they are very territorial, so they run away. They don't come to those houses. We haven't done any of that, so they just enjoy their time. So
what do they do? They just kind of scurry around on the roof. And make a racket?
They jump around everywhere, and they fight like crazy. Oh my gosh! And it's like a lot of them are there. So there are 2 residents, but they gather. So they call their friends and stuff like that. Yeah, we have to call police on them. Yeah.
That's funny.
I'm just kidding. There is no possum police. Yeah, but and at the same time, very similar to your story, we have these nightjars called towny frogmouths. Have you heard about them?
No. So tell me about this.
Actually, David Attenborough was about to, come here in March this year to do a documentary just about
I think we would watch any documentary that Attenborough would do, right? Just for his voice.
Yeah. He's Sir David Attenborough. Sorry, not David Attenborough.
I'm sorry. Right. Yes. We need to get that right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry for the disrespect there.
So these are the most mysterious, beautiful birds. You will mistake, they will be mistaken with owls, but they are not owls. They are these nightjars. And they hunt all night, and they'll sleep whole day on the tree, and they completely, change their shape. So it's complete metamorphosis for short duration. So they become like an arrow when it's really sunny and hot, and they become so fluffy, like a ball when it's really, really chilly. And it's really the way they change everything. And they sit just like, they are residents as well. So they come almost like on and off for 6 months throughout the year. And it's amazing. And when they are here, then the possums are away. Then any mouse or rats or anything in the area, they go away because they hunt. So yeah, very similar kind of neighbors you have. Yeah, we both share very similar kind of neighbors.
Have you painted them?
Yeah, I have sketched them. I haven't painted them. Yeah, but I have. I love painting colorful birds more. I have a little bit bias towards it, but maybe I will add color to them because they are very monochromatic. These downy frog mounts, so I might just make them a bit colorful by taking bit artistic,
There you go.
liberties.
Take an artistic license, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know there's an app I just found the other day? It's called Merlin Bird ID. It's put out by Cornell University here in the United States.
Oh, my.
We take this app. Shirley and I will sit out and we'll just let it record, and it's able to pick out all the birds in the audio. So you get the chickadees, and you get the titmouse, and the red birds, and the blue jays, and the towhees, and I tease my wife sometimes because the towhees and the redbirds are among our favorites. The redbirds are gorgeous, and they'll go pretty, pretty, pretty. And the other one will go sweet, sweet, sweet. So every time Shirley goes out, I say, look at that. They're talking about you, honey. Pretty, pretty, pretty. Sweet, sweet, sweet. I just love it.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's not just the macaws who talk, right? All the birds talk.
They do.
Yeah,
They do.
yeah.
You do paint large paintings. Why does that speak to you, painting large?
I think it's about the whole process, the mind and body process I go through. I think it's all about that, what I enjoy doing. So I'm not really very fond of sitting for a long time and, painting. So I like to walk around and move around and stretch. I think I love to use the whole body. So not just the wrist. So when I paint big, so you have like really big brushes, right? Where are all the big brushes? I think I moved them away, cleaned everything up. So if I have one here. So if I have a brush, right, a big one, and I have to reach at the top, so I can go like this, and then there is like shoulder moment, involved, or there is like elbow moment involved. So I think I enjoyed that a lot.
It's almost
more
like
than
a ballet, right? Or a dance.
Yeah. It's like a dance, I think. Yeah, because and also when you're painting with that 200 by 100 centimeter one, right? 1:2 aspect ratio, you're moving across. If you're painting tall, you're moving, up and down. So it's about the motion. It's about the experience. And I'm more like, I'm very rhythmic as a person, I feel, with everything. Yeah. And that's why even, when I was talking about your podcast and the way it affects me, or if I'm listening to a nice audio book with a calming voice, it really affects me. So it's all about the rhythm for me. Because the birds are in motion most of the times, I prefer painting the birds which are afloat or who are flying, and they're not stagnant. Sometimes I paint stagnant birds. Maybe that's my mood during that time. But a lot of times it's flying and very dramatic gestures and things like that.
Yeah, they're not just sitting there. They're it's like they have just alighted, or they're glancing off, ready to take flight, or they are in flight, and a cacophony. It's almost like you can hear this cacophony of bird calls as they take off in flight.
Yeah. So, like, have you tried ever tying a pencil to a rope or a string and then, drawing a circle, right?
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
as long you go, you can make bigger, like more flow. You can have a bit more flow. When I do this, and if I only use my wrist movement and I want to make like a big wing, right? I want to paint a big wing and I want to have it like a motion. It's very hard to do that. It's because you have a limitation, right? You can't go beyond that. But when I'm
Exactly.
using this, it's much more free flowing. Yeah.
So what are you painting with? I mean, what kind of surface are you on, and what what are your
So
tools of the
I
trade?
I use these poly cotton canvases
Wh-
from Wright and Co. So I use pre-made ones, and they're like the best quality you can get in Australia when it comes to those kind of canvases, polycotton canvases. I think they're sturdier. They're really smooth surface, not too smooth because I don't know. I find it doesn't take paint if it's really really smooth. So I have painted on boards and all wooden panels and things like that, but I think I prefer canvas a bit more, and they are just mounted on stretcher bars.
So you're painting on a poly uh, cotton hybrid canvas.
Correct.
By
Yeah.
the way, Lynn Schmill is the one that turned me on to that too. He paints on polyflax,
Ah.
and as well as he's primarily polyflax, which is all polyester. I use that, and I also use the poly cotton combination. I
Mm,
like that material. It's very affordable, and I
yeah.
can just cut it to whatever size I want. Now,
Yeah.
what's your medium? What do you paint with?
Primarily, I have been painting with acrylic paints from last few years since I got pregnant, because you never know the effects of paint thinner and things like that. And also, my daughter is running around everywhere, so I don't want her to be touching, because she actually takes the brushes which are in the water sometimes and just takes them and starts painting, right? And can put it in mouth sometimes. So yeah, it's a bit tricky. So
Yeah.
actually it has been really good, I feel, because I used to love oils, but I think for birds and for any subject, oils was getting a bit trickier for me, even though I love the whole feel of it and the creaminess and the richness, and it's really amazing. But it just uh, has directed my focus on just painting really fast. You can wash the brushes quickly. The whole routine is really, really simple with acrylics, I feel. Even the palette cleaning is easy. They have these wet palettes. They are
Mhm.
so amazing. They are like the paint savers, and you can keep going with them for like a month and then change your paper on the top of the palette. And I think acrylic, even though it has its own challenges, it dries really fast and things like that. You can manage it. You can, still do amazing stuff with it. Yeah, layer a lot quicker, things like that.
I think it's a beautiful medium. I started off in acrylic, then I moved to oil. I like the patina of oil, but there are
Yeah,
times that I'm thinking, oh, if I could just do this in acrylic, I might have a little bit more fun on this particular type of painting. So,
yeah,
and I have both. I have tubes of both, and I do from time to time experiment with both. I think it's just an
yeah,
extraordinary. It's a contemporary medium, and I think people are suspicious of it. They don't
yeah,
know, they don't trust it yet because it hasn't been around in their minds very long. I think technologically it's been around for quite some time, and it has
yeah, yep,
improved
yep,
dramatically in the last 20, 30 years. So it's just an incredibly
yeah.
good medium.
Yeah,
So
and from archival point of view as well, like from light fastness archival point of view, I think it's at par with oils, and sometimes can beat oils because it's primarily plastic. Yeah, not much is going to happen to it.
yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, we have a a global plastic problem. So
Yeah.
let's turn it around and into a positive here. It will last for thousands of years. So
Yeah.
yeah.
The beauty will last. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it is amazing to see some paintings that have lasted centuries. Remember years ago, we went into the Uffizi and saw the egg tempera paintings that were done in the 13 and 1400s. And I'm thinking,
Oh my
they look as
gosh.
good today as they probably did when they came off that artist easel, so to speak.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like I have been to Uffizi as well, and it
Isn't that
was an
amazing?
experience. It's like, you can spend, like, I can spend a month there
Yeah.
easily. It's not just the final paintings and things like that, but it's, when you enter into the museum, they have all of these Michelangelo's
Yeah.
sketchbooks and things like that, the gestural sketches and anatomical stuff. And it's just beautiful. Some architectural, primarily like really, really original sketchwork, which they did not even end up using to build anything, some of them. And it's just beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would like to go back. It's been many years since I've been there. The last European museum I went to was a small one in Austria, Vienna. It was called the Albertine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed
I've
that.
been there.
You
Yeah.
look at
Yeah,
that.
it's just that's my art education, traveling,
Of course.
going to all these national parks, seeing all the birds and animals, and then going to the museums. That's my, like, even when I was in the US, can you imagine how many times I have visited all of those five, I think there are 5 or 6 national galleries. When I was in Virginia for 3 years, I have visited like them more than 15 times.
Were you
Yeah,
near
it's
like
like,
Fairfax or that area?
yeah. We
Yeah.
were in Fairfax County so I was staying in Herndon and working in
Yeah.
Preston. Yeah. So yeah, almost every weekend.
So I want to back up a little bit here. You mentioned you lived in Virginia for about 3 years and then you moved to Australia, right?
Correct. So I did my master's from Chicago,
Yeah.
Illinois Institute of
Your
Technology.
master's was in?
My master's was in electrical engineering, specializing in communication system design.
And so you
Yeah.
worked as an engineer for many years. You were an
Yes, I
award-winning
did.
engineer. So it's
Yeah, I love it. It's
yeah.
my first love. So basically, going back, actually little further back, I have kind of run away from my home to become an engineer, because both of my parents are doctors, and in my family, everybody is, most of them are doctors. They're forced to become doctors somehow. If I wouldn't have, I wouldn't have taken that step, I would not be an engineer today. So my mom supported me, one of my uncles supported me, and my grandmom supported me financially. My mom's mother. So there were a few crazy people in the family who supported me, but yeah, most of them, like, we have a big, huge family of more than 70 people. Most of them did not approve of me becoming an engineer, because in India at that time, the engineering field was still picking up. It was like you become either chemical engineer or mechanical engineer, and for computer science, telecom, there wasn't that much of scope at that time. And it was like, if you are an engineer, you do field work. You have to go to field and be under the sun and work for 12 hours with a helmet on, and you are a girl, you won't be able to do that. So that was the whole attitude over there. And if you become a doctor, you can be a gynecologist, and then you can make good money as a girl. So it was a very, very clear, very crystal clear understanding for them.
So you had a clear vision of what you wanted to do, but you had a
Absolutely.
cultural and familial pressures to go in a different direction.
Yeah.
How did you cope with that and maintain peace with your family?
I had, because see, I'm the youngest of 5 sisters, so I have 4 cousin sisters, and all the four are doctors. It is not easy to be a doctor,
No, it is not.
And while growing up, I have seen my mom, even though she enjoyed it a lot, I have seen her doing her practice and being a gynecologist, and it has been miserable. Like they don't have day or night. It's like they don't have any life. It's a very noble work, and she did a lot of humanitarian work. But I truly feel like you can do good work. You can help people by doing anything. It's not just you don't have to become a doctor to do that. You need to follow your heart sometimes, right? And I was a maths person. I loved mathematics, and I just couldn't leave maths, and I couldn't just see blood and see cut people. So that wasn't my thing. I was very clear that the other side is I just couldn't. I was very, very clear and very. It wasn't something which was very brave or anything for me. I was 16 when I did that, but it wasn't a brave decision. It was very clear for me to do that, and I had a very good support system still because of my grandmother, my mom, and one of my uncles. They were very clear. My uncle always told me like really beautiful things. He said, people call me crazy. He runs a sugar factory in a village, and he's a chairman of a sugar factory, and he handles everything. And he says, I work almost 18 hours, sometimes 24 hours, and people call me crazy, but I love what I do. So if you really want to become an engineer, just go for it. Just don't listen to anyone. Don't let it affect, and just go for it. Yeah. And wow. I think that made a huge difference.
Yeah, I think culturally here in the United States, there's not as much, things aren't predetermined for you in most cases. I think most people are, of course, there's still pressure. I had a dear friend of mine who was highly pressured by his family because they were all in medicine, and that's what they wanted him to do. But he had absolutely no interest in that. Would he have been good? Do you really want somebody working on your brain if they're not interested in it? I don't understand that reasoning.
Yeah.
His heart wasn't in it. In fact, I just fired my last doctor not too long ago for this very reason. I mean, every time I'd go see him, he couldn't stand his job. Oh man. And I hated it for him. He was miserable. But finally, I had to make the decision. This guy is so miserable doing his job and I really need somebody that's into it.
Absolutely.
I'm not trying to throw him under but I did have to fire him because his heart wasn't in it.
Yeah.
So if your heart's not in it, you're not going to do the quality.
Yeah, there is a lot of, inside information when it comes to any profession, like especially with medicine, you can't just trust anybody. And I follow this author, Atul Gawande. He is an American author, and he writes beautiful books like on medicine. And he has written a lot of books. And it talks about that, people who don't have passion, how they mess up the whole surgery, and they can play with people's bodies because they have to learn as well, right? They have to do the practical work. And that happens, So it's
but realistically, I mean, we don't want to throw medicine under the bus here.
Yeah,
but,
absolutely.
I mean, really, it's truly. I think it's in all professions. I was in software. I had my own software company, and it was extremely difficult to find people who were passionate about their job. I mean, I don't expect them to be passionate 24 hours a day. Yeah. I want them to enjoy their families and all that. But when you're doing the work, do your best, and that was, I don't know. It's like the 80-20 rule. Actually, it's more like the 94-6 rule. It's like 94% tend toward mediocrity. And then you have the 6% that do really, really well. And they're driven. They're driven.
Yeah.
Those are people that are driven by quality, things like they take pride in their work.
I don't believe that talent or, intelligence or all of these things matter at all in life. It's the passion, it's what you love doing, what you like to practice every day. That is all matters. Like it's the same with anything, whether it's art or mathematics, right? You have to practice. You have to every day
Right.
practice, and then you'll be good at it. It's building that muscle memory, with anything. I feel it's the routine. You can't be bored of it, and then that's the way to go, right? And with painting, that was the challenge. Like, during my engineering days, whenever I used to struggle, for when I taking some exams, especially when I was in the US, right? India, doing engineering is very different to doing engineering outside India. It's a very formulaic kind of a curriculum. You have a way to score, a way to pass. So you have different ways to do different things with it. But when I went to Chicago, it was a completely different challenge for me, because you have to really genuinely understand the concept. And then, in the exams, you have to take a problem which is very practical, like design a vending machine, which does this. Like, you need to understand the whole flow, the whole logic and everything. So it was a challenge for me. And during that time, I used to get frustrated, and I used to complain to my brother that, oh, I should have been an artist, or I should have been a painter, or, I should have pursued this passion, and it would have been so great. And he, like, fortunately, I have got an amazingly good and intelligent brother who has, and he used to say, stop doing your engineering for a month and just paint day and night during that 1 month. And then you'll come to know whether you really love it. And I'm like, oh, I don't have time for that, but definitely I'll do it at some point of time in my life. Yeah.
So you were an engineer, and you just recently had a big change in your life, right? You just left engineering. How did that decision come about?
Yeah. So actually, my daughter Bronte is a big driving force behind that.
How old is she?
She's now 19 months, toddler running around everywhere. Yeah, so when I was pregnant, it was lockdown everywhere, right? Everywhere,
Yeah.
Everybody was working from home, and you could manage your time the way you want to. My project was pretty much settled. The handover to operations activities were going on. It was go live on the mine site. Everything was good. And during that time, I got a lot of time for planning my own, schedule and things like that. So I could paint a lot during that time. So I painted a lot. And, when Bronte was born, still I got a lot of time because of my husband's support. And, he used to take care of her most of the times. I just used to feed her and give it to him. And he used to burp and put her to bed. And that's it. As soon as she gets up, he used to, come, because I used to paint outside in the sun, under the sun. And he used to come and, say that, oh, take a break now. And then, so I painted a lot during all that phase.
That's nice.
It was amazing. I think she's the one who enabled me to paint a lot, actually.
See, now, isn't that interesting? Because I think some people might say, oh, having children or some other challenge in your life, you just can't do anything until that phase is over. You didn't do that. You did.
No, and it was just two of us, me and my husband, who managed everything. Because of COVID, nobody could come to help or anything. But it was the most wonderful time. I think we could manage it really well. Maybe we need to give some credit to Bronte. Maybe she was a
there you go.
bit, she had a pattern and things like that. So maybe we were lucky with that. We can't give ourselves that much credit, I think. But it was a really smooth ride. And I think that is what enabled me to refocus and prioritize and paint a lot more than before. Recently, when last March, I joined back my engineering work 2 days a week. They were very flexible with that. So just for 2 days a week, I was doing my engineering work, and 3 days I was still painting, taking care of Bronte. After an year, I realized that, I was in this phase from Saturday till Wednesday, 5 days, painting, thinking about paintings. And then suddenly Thursday morning comes and meeting, I forgot about that. So it kept on happening a few times. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm in that phase. I'm in that zone, which my brother was telling me in 2009. when I was complaining about, not becoming an artist or a painter. And then it hit me, that I'm actually really loving this, and I need to give 100% to this in my life. Life only comes once, and I really need to give it a chance. I deserve this. That's what I felt. I don't know. So I went for it. I didn't have anything to lose. So just to be, Kala, I have not talked about this with anybody, and I have not shared it with some of my friends also, but I went through a really, really bad phase in 2021, start of 2021. So Bronte was just under 5 months old, and I lost the most important person in my life.
Oh,
and
no.
yeah, and I couldn't even say goodbye. It was like it was, even today, I can't contemplate, or, I can't imagine the whole phase I went through. And
Who was it, if you don't mind my asking?
so
Yeah.
I lost my mom,
Oh,
who
I'm
was
sorry.
everything for me.
Yeah.
Who was like everything for me. Like she was source of my, everything. Like even today, I feel her in my body, because when I paint, I can feel, that, because she's the one who taught me about the wrist, and about this, and about painting, about drawing. She
Wow.
was an amazing draftsman. And because of her, financial situation before getting married, she didn't have a dad. So, and she was the oldest. She could never get a chance to paint, like she
So
never
she had
painted.
that
Or
desire too.
absolutely, I think somewhere she had that. And she, like,
Hmm.
you should look at her handwriting. And being a doctor, she had an amazing handwriting. And the way she used to sketch and draw, like her line used to be a straight line, like, which you have made with a ruler. And circle used to be a perfect circle. Everything, like, whatever her intention was, she used to do it, she used to execute it. And I can feel it in myself. I can feel that, I don't know, that passion, that it's like compulsion. It's not a passion, it's compulsion to draw
Yeah.
and paint, and create something, do with something with my hands. I'm very much involved in woodworking and putting things together as well. I love doing things with my hands. So that's why I very much relate to your podcast. And I really, really, from the bottom of my heart, want to thank you, because of your podcast and the whole zoning thing, I have survived, through this time. Because it has been really, really heartbreaking, right? Because she could not see Bronte. She just could not. And
Oh,
she,
goodness.
like, there were a lot of things which happened, right? She could not come here and she used to come to US every year for 4 months almost. She used to come here every year for 3 to 4 months. So she had a lot of, like, it wasn't that she wasn't coming and we had lost touch or something. We were very, very
You were
close.
close.
I was extremely close. I was attached to her. So I'm still attached to her. Somehow I still feel, that she's there in my art, and I feel that connection. And I think because of the whole, because I was listening to your podcast when she was there. I used to video chat with her. I used to talk about different podcasts I hear.
Oh,
And that was one constant thing which kept, going even after she was gone, right? It was like part of my routine, listening to the podcast, listening to all the beautiful artists you interview, and then painting. So that was like a routine for me, and it just gave me that comfort. So I really want to thank you again. I know
oh.
I'm like, I don't want to
Yeah,
make you
no,
uncomfortable. But
no, you're not, and I appreciate you sharing that. And I would have liked to have met your mother.
yeah,
Somebody like that is what an amazing person she was, and I would have liked to have had that privilege of meeting her and getting to know her just as you did. What an amazing. I cannot imagine what you were feeling or what
yeah,
you were going through, but I do appreciate you sharing that with me.
yeah.
And
2017, like I was turning 30 and she was turning 16, 2017. And we took
mm,
this 2 month long trip across Europe. And that's
wow,
when, all the museums you're talking about. We did 21 days of Italy, all the museums, we did like almost 20 days of Germany, then Austria, Prague, Budapest. So we went everywhere, just me and my mom. And we had a blast, because she's an art lover, she's a history lover, and we just had a blast with exploring everything, looking at each painting. And when you have, imagine, Carl, you have that person who loves art as much as you do, and you have that person with you and looking at each painting, and just
I could
looking
just
at a
see you
painting
two
for
there at the
hours.
Albertine.
Oh my gosh, like we never realized when sunset used to happen and they used to throw us out of each of the gallery and museum. Seriously, they had to throw us out because we were just stuck there asking questions and googling what is so special about some of the paintings. Some of the paintings, just you just look at them, it's like it was the best 2 months of my life. Yeah.
Did she get the opportunity to see some of your art?
Yeah. She was so appreciative of it, and she's the one, who who gave me this. Not, I can't say permission, but her support,
Yeah.
that yeah, baby, you should do it. I think you should do it now. You should just. I know you love your engineering, but I think you should give it a chance. That's what she told me. So yeah. So that's what, Carl, that's what led to this, that there were a lot of things which were leading to it. Also, I didn't have any inventory left. I know business is not the main thing, and I don't believe that making money should be the driving force at all behind your creation, art creation. But it definitely helps. So I hardly have any inventory left. So that is another,
That's a good
that is
problem to
another
have.
positive. Absolutely.
You're
Absolutely.
touching people's hearts. You're making a connection with people. They're wanting your paintings on their walls.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I can see why. I hope to one day own one of one of Priya's paintings on my wall.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, they're just
I'll bring you a few small studies.
okay.
Don't worry about it. I can bring those for you when I'm coming to the US, in July. So I'll definitely bring that for you.
Oh, yes. Well, that's going to be an amazing trip when you get to come to the US.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Grand Teton. I'm looking forward to going to Grand Teton National Park.
Are you going to try to do any painting outdoors or at least sketching?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Definitely sketching. I'm going to sketch everywhere. Yeah, but painting also I'm going to try because yeah.
And
I'm
check
going
out
to
the
try it.
galleries. Check out the
Yeah,
galleries.
yeah.
Oh, and
Check out
the
the gallery.
wildlife. See, I could see one of your paintings in the National Wildlife Museum, Art Museum in Jackson. You got to check that out when you go there. That is an
Sure.
amazing
Jackson,
museum. Yeah. It's been a long time since I've been there, but I'd like to get back to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
yeah. Maybe I can get some tips and recommendations from you. What all places I can visit around the area, Yellowstone and
yeah,
Grand Teton and Salt Lake and western part. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you're going to be in Salt Lake, I hope you get to go a little bit further south into Canyon country.
Yeah.
Like if you could go down into the Moab area and then Canyonlands and Dead Horse Point State Park and Grand Staircase Escalante, if you could just drive through it, You will have the desert in your blood.
Yeah, all the way to Tucson, eh? All the way south. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't even make it to Tucson. I mean, once you get to Four Corners, that's I'm
That's
I'm so jaded by what I've seen. Not jaded. That makes it sound like I don't. But anyway, you get overwhelmed after a point, and you just have to stop and say, I just need to go sit down and have a cup of coffee.
Yeah, seriously. And especially, with all the artists you have interviewed, I have gotten so much influence around, landscape painting and painting, sitting out there and painting, and so much inspiration. Yeah.
Well, so who are some of the artists that inspire you?
Oh my God, there are so many of them. There are some of them who are not who are not classical painters. Yeah. So I came to know about Bekinski from Andrew Tischler's podcast, and I know his subject might not be, really people might not appreciate it, or I don't know, but I just love his paintings. I love his attention to detail and the way he expresses. I just love that. And I feel that fearlessness of not looking at the subject or not looking at the number. So he can paint like these million bodies, and it's just, I'm sure he's not thinking of them as bodies. I'm sure he's thinking of them as pixels or just paint. And yeah, like it's a very different kind of, I think, thought process he must be having. I haven't read about him. I actually, I would love to read about him and his, biography or something. I love the artist you interviewed, Michelle Jung.
Oh yes, Michelle's wonderful.
I love her work. So I love flowers and things like that, right? I love Matt Ryder. I love all the artists you have interviewed, Bill Anton and Lynch Mill, and all of them are just wonderful. I don't think I can pick and choose. I think you can learn from each one of them.
I do too. Yeah.
So much. You can learn so much from each one of them. Yeah. Jill Carver. I just love her. I just love her work.
She is an amazing artist. She's another one I want to own one of her paintings. I've gotten in this mode where I want to collect a little bit.
Yeah.
I can't afford it, but I want to do it.
Yeah. Even I have collected few from here, Australian local artists. So I have collected one, which is there is one artist, Sarah Park. She is amazing. Like she does these hand paintings. And, she has this, something is, the shadows are seeping through a fan. It's beautiful gestures. And I love that. I think I love flow and gestures and everything. Beautiful composition.
Your education. It's like you said earlier, most of us are not born with the talent in the sense of it's just a natural ability. I mean, some may have more than others, obviously, but we have to learn skills. How did you learn the skill of painting?
So, when I came here, when I came to Australia, I didn't have a job right away, right? I had a permanent residency, which allowed me to do any job I wanted to do, but I didn't get any job right away. So first thing I did when I landed is went to an art supply store.
Good place to go. Yeah.
Yeah. I just bought few acrylic paints and, few oil paints. I didn't even know, that I should have the really earthy colors. So I didn't even know any of that. I just bought all the poppy, purples and pinks and reds and all that stuff, and came back home and,
you were a fauvist at heart.
Absolutely. Yeah. And came back home and started, Googling and looked at some of the artists on YouTube and started just painting, on the canvas. And then I realized, they're not using this color palette. They're using something different and really basic. And the colors don't look very attractive, but they're making something really attractive out of those colors. So I think you can catch that really fast and implement it. So I was doing lots of seascapes and things like that, following them. I was literally copying them stroke by stroke. So if somebody is using a knife, I was using a knife. If somebody is using a particular brush, I'm using exactly that brush. So I was very, very particular about that. And then gradually I tuned on to few more artists. And it has been my university. It has been my education, like along with, the museums and all the observation. Just looking at these artists paint is, I think, is the biggest thing. And you yourself practicing alongside is very important. Yeah. So that's the main source behind the whole thing. And as I grew into it, I kept on changing my instructors as per my wish. And I just evaluated my progress, and that's it. It was a fun. It has been the same thing even now. I look at YouTube, I look for the tips. It's the internet who is my teacher.
There you go. If it's on the internet, it's got to be true, right?
At least you can try it.
That's right.
And see if it is true. Yeah, it might not be true half of the times, but you still end up learning.
Some of those resources are pretty good. I mean, Andrew Tischler, I discovered him early on, really, and he was an early guest on the show. There's a few good resources out there. There really are.
Yeah. His channel has been amazing. The tips he shares, they're like really basic, but very, very important and elementary. It's very preliminary kind of work you have to go through to.
And he's got a good business sense about what he does too, which I enjoyed my conversation with him. I need to call him up sometime and talk to him again, see how things have changed over the last couple of years. He's got a good business head on his shoulders, which is good for artists,
Absolutely. And he's constantly learning, like that's the best part about anybody, I try to follow people who want to learn all the time, who are not stuck in their ways. And he's also like, even with business, he accepts that he wasn't good when he was young and how he has learned, how he's still improving around that, because it's high time. I feel even the youngsters should just start nowadays, with a good business, very healthy relationship with, business, I think, because business is good. Even before coming to Brisbane, when I was in Melbourne, I have had very negative beliefs about business or making money, but when I came here, I came as a consultant, and I looked very closely at even engineering consultancy business. And I realized that some of the companies, they really need it. They really need these services because they don't know what to do next from a technological point of view. Or it's not just money making, it's providing a service.
Exactly.
It's the same with art.
Well, it feels good when you sell a painting. Right?
Absolutely. And see, my whole point of it is, Carl, you see, youngsters are okay to work 9 to 5, right? For years after years, for tens of years, right? And at that time, they don't feel it's like selling out or anything. And when they're making business out of their art, they feel all these negative beliefs, which is really strange for me. Because why can't you just keep your 20 or 30% of the time and try to learn something else, which is business in this case? It's just learning a new thing. It's just a tag people have given it, business, right? You just have to disassociate.
Well, really, that is it, isn't it?
It's a very beautiful, meticulous planning you do. There is financial planning aspect, there is scheduling aspect. There are a lot of different aspects around it, right? Accounting, which are interesting. There is nothing wrong. Employing people maybe at some point of time, which is, again, it should be encouraged, right? It's like, running your own thing. Yeah.
Let me ask, I got to ask you, do you remember the first painting that you sold and how it made you feel when it sold?
Oh, yes, I do. So I sold it through this online gallery, Blue Thumb Art, which is like a big gallery, online gallery in Australia. They are one of the biggest. And and they're really good. They're doing good things for artists like me who are just sitting at home painting, and they can just upload it online, and and somebody just bought it. It was my first ever good oil painting, yeah, which got sold. It had a panda, red panda, and a lilac-breasted roller from Kenya.
Oh.
So it was called Hello from the Other Side, and two, one bird and an animal from different continents saying hello to each other. So it was an amazing experience when that got sold. Yeah.
Well, I wish you much success, Priya. You are an amazing artist, and your work is absolutely beautiful. And
thank you so much.
I do wish you success as you take this new angle in your life here, this new chapter in your life. I'm sure you'll still love the geek stuff, and it'll probably benefit you in your art in some way.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what, going out of India, I have realized, there is nothing, you can't force yourself or confine yourself to a particular profession or a particular thing. You just do what you feel like doing. It's like after 5 or 10 years, if I want to do something else, I can do something else. It's not, you don't have to force yourself for anything, and it doesn't take a lot of resources or money to do anything nowadays. Everything is online. It was so easy to set everything up online, and even to start painting, it was not very expensive.
Yeah. Speaking of online, where would people find you online?
So my website is Karibu Fine Art, Karibu fineart.com.
That's an interesting name. Where did that come from?
Karibu means welcome in Swahili language. It's a Maasai people's language. So we had been to Kenya and Tanzania for a 12-day safari trip back in 2016. So we visited Masai Mara and Serengeti and Amboseli National Park. And we were just out from morning 5:30 till evening 7 o'clock. And, so as soon as we went to the first national park, Amboseli, at the accommodation place, the whole team of rangers, they welcomed us, Karibu, and, and that's the feeling. So we got really amazing feeling. And after that, the 12 days of fun with all of us, 7 cousins we had, those were beautiful memories we formed in the wilderness, and the sound of Karibu just reverberates, wildlife and
it's a fun word to
nature.
Say. Caribou,
Yeah.
Caribou.
Caribou.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
I'm going to start telling people hello, Yeah. That's nice.
Yeah,
What
instead of hello,
story.
you can just say Karibu, or instead of welcome.
Ah, neat.
Yeah, it's a nice word.
It's been a real pleasure talking with you. And again, I wish you much success in your new art endeavors.
Thank you so much, Carl, for this opportunity. I think you are very well aware that I was not very comfortable at the start, because the kind of people you interview, they're from another planet. I feel they are these bunch of people who are just so, I hate to use this word talented, but still they are talented and so passionate about what they do. So I really don't feel that I fit into that.
Don't sell yourself short, Priya.
Group.
I'll tell you a little secret. Every one of them say the same thing. So.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh my God. Yeah. Still. And especially, being in Australia and getting in touch with you, and, thanks for everything you're doing for the artistic community. Seriously, thank you from the bottom of my heart. And you have all my support forever. Yeah.
Well, Priya, the pleasure is mine. Thank you so much. I've been wanting to have Priya Gore on The Artful Painter for quite some time, and I'm happy that I was able to finally arrange it and to present this episode to you. It was very inspiring to talk with her. I was impressed with her energy, her enthusiasm, and her openness and honesty. And it was a really encouraging conversation to me. I enjoyed that very much. She's one to watch. I think she's going to go far as an artist. Be sure to check out her website. A link is in the show notes. And now I'd like to recognize the associate producers of The Artful Painter. These are people who provide financial support with their generous donations. It helps make this show possible. It takes some of the pressure off of me because I know that there's some financial support there. It pays for the hosting of the website and all the costs that go into producing this show. So it makes me really happy. I know not everyone can do this, and I don't expect it, okay? But I really do appreciate those that take the time to give to this podcast. So I have two new associate producers in this episode to acknowledge. First is Jerry Mishler. He is a Oregon-based artist. He's a plein air painter, works in oil. He also is a mixed media artist, has these beautiful drawings, very beautiful drawings, and just a really genuinely nice guy. I've gotten to know Jerry over the last several months. I've been working with him and his wife in creating their new website. So I helped Jerry move his website from WordPress to Squarespace, and he did a fantastic job. They both did a fantastic job with this website, and it brings me a great deal of delight to see that they're able to manage this website and make it look however they want to with no limits. So well done, Jerry. I have a link to his website in the show notes, jerrymishler.com. My second associate producer I want to acknowledge is John Patushnik. He is amazing. Everyone knows John. He is the author of the book Limited Palette, Unlimited Color. Also, he appeared in episode 40 of The Artful Painter. I have a link to that as well if you want to go back and listen to his episode. He has a YouTube channel. He has a new program that he's doing on YouTube. He calls it The Purposeful Creator, and that's a lot of fun to watch. And of course, his website is a wealth of information. He does these wonderful interviews. He's a good interviewer. Now, a lot of his interviews are written. They're in his blog. And I think that's great because you can always go back and read it. But he does a really good job doing that. But John, thank you so much for supporting The Artful Painter. I don't know what to say other than a great big thank you. So I really appreciate it. So those are the two new associate producers for this episode. Thank you, Jerry, and thank you, John. Now, there is one other way that you can support The Artful Painter, and that is through the Artful Methods membership. You can find information about this on my website. There's a link on the homepage. This is where I read inspiring art books and stories for artists, collectors, and people who love art. Currently, there are 3 titles out there, and I am working on a 4th one. It is called, hold it, just a moment, here it is, Imagination in Landscape Painting. It's by Philip Gilbert Hammerton. So I'm in the process of recording this, and you will see it coming soon on Artful Methods. So I hope you enjoy that. Other titles available are The Art Spirit, that's about 9 hours long. Landscape Painting by Burge Harrison, that's a little over 4.5 hours. And then there's a slightly less than an hour 10 o'clock lecture by James Abbott McNeil Whistler. I'm also creating music playlists. There's at least 3 volumes, I think, out there right now. About an hour and a half of music that you can listen to while you are painting. So I hope you enjoy those. Anyway, that brings us to the end of this edition of The Artful Painter. May your tubes be full of beautiful and light, fast colors, and your brush strokes, may they flow with gesture and capture a dash of wilderness like Priya Gore. I'll see you all in the next edition of The Artful Painter.
on the TV.